Hey guys, welcome to the very first episode of the I Am a Show Off pod. My name is Karina, Karina, and that's who's behind the sometimes raspy voice you are currently listening to. First, let me say that I am not a show off, but my company is Show Off Furniture. I am a mom, a wife, and a first time entrepreneur trying to do it all. And if I'm lucky, on a good day, I maybe get it right 50% of the time. I'm doing this podcast for three reasons. Number one, I like to talk, as you'll soon find out. Number two, I've been cooped up since March, and I so desperately miss interacting with people. And number three, I'm sure I'm not the only person who lost their job during the pandemic and decided to start their own company. So why not share my story? So on bad days, I don't feel so alone in this crazy decision I made. Today, as I'm recording, it is Friday before a 3-day weekend, and in my house, that means 3 glorious days without having to deal with homeschool. Kind of feels like I'm going on vacation. 2 of my 3 kids sit on either side of me during the day while I'm trying to work, and I have to listen to both of their classes so I can make sure that they're focused and interacting and doing what they're supposed to do. So a 3-day weekend is very much needed for me, and I'm so excited because I will get to focus on Show Off Furniture and create new SKUs and create more content for social media because I took Gary V's advice and I am doing 7 pieces of content for multiple platforms a day, and I am exhausted just doing that, let alone everything else that it entails in running a business and running a store, an e-commerce store or website. I'm kind of like my kids in a lot of ways, and I distract easily, so I'm like squirrel. So I'm going to try and focus and tell you a little bit about myself so you kind of know who it is that you're listening to, I guess. Like I said earlier, my name is Karina. I was born and raised in New York. My family comes from Colombia, and I'm first generation born in the States. So I consider myself a New York Colombian. Get it? New York, Colombia? Okay. Anyway, 12 years ago, my hubby and I decided to leave it all behind and move to South Florida to raise our kids. We only had 2 back then. And in New York, I worked for 9 West Corporate in White Plains. And I loved telling people that. Any excuse to throw that in a conversation, and I'd take it. That was so obnoxious of me. But what can I say? It was my first corporate job, and I was so young. I started when I was 12, and I left when I was 28. I was so sad to leave that I cried big snotty tears on my last day. Hubby, who I'll call Babe on here for his privacy. Not that anyone but him is listening, even though I specifically told him not to listen. I told him I was creating this podcast, and I told him I wasn't ready for him to hear it yet, and when I was ready, I would let him know. I only told him about it because if I didn't tell him, then I felt like I was lying to him. And what does he do? I think the very next day, he comes home from work and gives me a kiss and says, "Babe, I heard your intro and it's wonderful." Thanks, babe. I appreciate the support, but I was not ready for you to listen. Anyway, squirrel. So, Babe was not happy about leaving his career either, but he did it for me because I couldn't bear the thought of putting our special needs kid in a Yonkers public school. Wait, did I tell you that we were from? Yeah, we're from Yonkers. Why, oh baby? Of course. I can't help myself, I swear. I don't know how it is up there now, but 12 years ago, there was nothing good about the programs for ASD kids in the public elementary schools. So I saw moving as my only option. The only good place we found was a preschool called the Fred S. Keller School, and they did amazing things with my kid. So if you're in the Yonkers area and you have an ASD preschooler, Fred S. Keller is the place. I'm sorry, I'll focus, I promise. So we packed up everything, and we packed up our lives, and we decided to move to Florida. It was crazy, it was scary, it was the unknown. It was exciting, all wrapped up in one decision. I won't bore you with the details of our culture shock when we arrived in Florida. Those of you who have moved to Florida from New York know exactly what I'm talking about. It took us about 7 years to feel like we might just stay after all, because we thought about moving back multiple times a month in those 7 years. Well, at least I did. I'm sure Babe was here, he would say it took less time for him. I don't deal with change easy, and 7 apparently was my magic number. I bounced around from job to job after we arrived here in Florida, and the instability was so hard for me after being at 9 West for so long. But after 3 years, I ended up in the buying department at a company in West Palm Beach. I started as an assistant buyer, and within the year, I was promoted to associate buyer. Another 12 months later, I was promoted to a buyer. So you can imagine, I was feeling like a boss. I really was, though. I was in my very early 30s and had wanted to be a buyer since I saw Rachel Green do it on Friends. Imagine how happy I was. I felt like I was living the so-called career dream at the time. I went to a trade and tech high school called Saunders. Blue Devils, woo woo. My major in high school was fashion design, and I think that planted a seed of creativity in me. But at the time, I also wanted to be an FBI profiler and an Egyptologist. So I guess in reality, I could have gone in any of those three directions. Can I say? I'm eclectic. In college, I took forensic psychology, so I had started on one path, but I didn't follow through. And that's a different story, not for today. I'm not sure if ever. I haven't decided yet. So back to the buying job. After 4 years and multiple promotions, I left. I had a boss that made it easy for me to leave, though. But there were other reasons. The main one was my pay was just too low. So I left and went to work for, I'm not going to say the company name, but it's a major, massive office supply company based out of Boca. That's all I'll say about the name. The funny part of leaving that first buying job was 2 friends I made while working there also left for the office supply company. One left first and helped bring myself and the other in. Maybe one of these days I'll have them on as guests. Yeah, I think I will. They're working moms too, and we all have different struggles and paths and backgrounds, and we would all like more options, which, now that I actually think about it, is probably how a lot of entrepreneurs get started in the first place. So, yeah, I think I'll have them on soon. Anyway, back to the office supply. Ever heard of the expression, be careful what you ask for because you just might get it? Well, that was my lesson to learn here. I prayed and vision boarded for a job like that and a salary like that. Speaking of vision boards, I'm huge on that. Maybe in another episode we'll talk about it. So yeah, I vision boarded and I prayed, and God answered my prayer. I won't say too much about that place except to say that I did learn a lot about Excel, organization, and how not to be a boss, and how important the right kind of training in the beginning is when you join a massive organization. So that opportunity lasted 3 years before I was part of a mass layoff. I had never been let go before, and I was devastated. Not because I didn't see it coming or because I wanted to stay. I actually wanted to leave so bad. I was devastated because it had never happened before, and I honestly thought it would never happen to me. I desperately wanted to leave, but on my terms. And it sucked when it didn't happen that way. Plus, saying goodbye to the money I was making there was heartbreaking. I thought I would never reach that salary again because there aren't too many massive companies like that here in South Florida. That aren't cruise ships, though. And I didn't want to work for a cruise ship company. I wanted to work for, something else. So, after being laid off, I hunted for 3 months and ended up as an online buyer at a furniture company in South Florida. I was brought in to create and start a dropship program. I literally had to create the program from scratch. Like, the desk was empty when I arrived, and there was no game plan for my newly created position. Looking back now, it was exactly where I needed to be to get me where I am today and where I'm trying to go very soon. Please, God, please. I learned not only about furniture, but also that I really like it. I like putting a room together and using the seeds of creativity that were planted in high school. I guess that was kind of a full circle moment for me when I realized that 2.5 years into this company. For today's story, I'll stop there, and next time I'll tell you all the mistakes I made along the way creating that dropship program. Now I see it as a dry run for my own company, Show Off Furniture. Without having to go through those trials and tribulations of that job, I never would have sold my company as possible. It was a stepping stone in becoming a show-off. Thanks for listening. I realize time is a precious commodity, and I appreciate you spending some on me. If you like what you've heard so far, please subscribe, tell your friends, and share. Also, check out my website, showoffurniture.com. Show off and furniture, 3 F's, guys. It's where your personality meets your home. I'm also all over social media. My handle is show off furniture, just like the website, everywhere except for Twitter. At Twitter, we are show off fern. Show off FURN. Had to think about that for a second. Till next time, guys, may we all have peace of mind and be at peace in our hearts. Deuces.